Hi, my name is Kim Rosas. I'm a period products expert, and I recently opened a store here in Asheville, North Carolina. Part of our store includes an exhibit on the history of period products covering 100 years of menstrual technology. That exhibit is behind me and also in front of me, and I want to go through and show you some of my favorite items from this collection. And of course, invite you to visit us here in North Carolina to see all of them in person. It's just a really fascinating story that most people don't get to see. Museums don't often include these items in their exhibits, and it's such a taboo topic even today that there aren't many products left in existence to even collect and store and preserve. We should start with one of our oldest products. This is a Venus sanitary pad. It is huge. These tabs would attach to a sanitary belt, which we also have on exhibit, and essentially you would wear this like you would wear a pad today, with the exception of it being the size of what now is probably a postpartum pad. Part of that is because there is no compression technology, so the amount of cotton here, you would have the same amount of cotton in a much flatter, more compressed pad as technology becomes more advanced, and they learn that you can squish this down and tighten it for a tighter fit. But everyone was wearing skirts, so you didn't need such a tight to the body fit. When we get to a time when women are in the workforce, you start to see that change, and these get smaller, more compact. This is an example of one of the sanitary belts. Another really old item that we have in the collection is a sanitary sponge, and this sponge is from probably the 1930s. It was a contraceptive sponge. However, women were using these to absorb their period flow. They figured out that it wasn't just for preventing pregnancy, but that it could absorb periods and become somewhat like a tampon, which also existed in the 1930s. It has a string and it has a netting around the sanitary sponge so it would not break apart in the body when you removed it, and you could pull it by the string just like you would a tampon. This is something I will point out to pretty much everyone who comes and views our exhibit when I'm here. This is the Daintette. It's a menstrual cup from the 1940s. It is by no means the very first menstrual cup. That honor goes to the Hy-Kup, which is from 1929. I don't have one of those, I wish, but this is the earliest example of a menstrual cup that I have. So it's made from natural rubber. It's this really fun Period Nirvana green. It matches our decor perfectly. How did they know? And the brand is Daintette. It was a MLM style brand that would have saleswomen go into homes and talk about the products, and that included the Daintette, also douches, also a bunch of other weird kooky health items, but this one, not so kooky, pretty good idea, I think. And it was sold for $2.50 at the time in 1942. The instructions, everything are identical to kind of the menstrual cup instructions you know today. It even has suction holes. This is one of those products when people go to our exhibit that they are like, what the fuck is that? It is a diaphragm inserter, and diaphragms were another contraceptive just like the sponge, but women were figuring out you could wear this on your period. It would prevent messes if you were having intercourse on your period, and also just figured out you could wear it for period protection, which is now how we have menstrual discs today. So we have the diaphragm to thank for that. They're essentially the same thing, but menstrual discs have a larger basket. So I'm going to show you how this works, but not on an old vintage diaphragm because it would rip. The latex has not held up very well. You put the disc here, and then diaphragms were sized, so smaller ones would fit around here, larger ones would fit around here. So you stretch it to elongate it for insertion. And so then you would insert it into the body, you would pull it out, and then this side was a removal device. So you would hook it by the rim and pull it out. This is one of my favorite things to point out to people when they come to our exhibit because it really demonstrates how in some ways we've come so far in the period product world, and in some ways we are exactly where we were almost 100 years ago. This is a cardboard applicator tampon. I mean, it's not a comfort tip, but this is from the 1950s. Everything mechanically is the same, even about the same size as tampons that we would put in today, but 1950s. There you go. And a box was only $1.39. That's not what we sell tampons for in our store anymore, unfortunately. Another great menstrual product history moment is the Tassaway Cup. This cup is from the same company that created what is often credited as the very first menstrual cup, the Tassette Company. In the late 1930s, she filed for her patent and started selling her menstrual cup, the Tassette. I don't have one of those, but if you do, send it to me, please. I'm still hunting for that. The Tassaway, though, is pretty easy to find. It's from the 1970s. It was marketed as a disposable menstrual cup. It was supposed to be a one-time use product, but people were figuring out you could just wear it over and over. There's a lot of great history about this. I talk about it in another one of my videos, but what really it signifies is that the menstrual cup disappeared from the market when this company went out of business in the 1970s. They only lasted a few years, sold millions of cups, but then it went away and there were no other menstrual cup companies, meaning that the menstrual cup was off the market and unavailable to anyone for over a decade. This product sort of marks when we go from the sanitary belt, which is very annoying. You have pins, you have clasps, you have this whole contraption to hold up your pad, and we go to disposable adhesive backed pads. So you'll see a lot of boxes from this era, no belt, no pins, automatically adheres to underwear. It's just like a really cool moment in time when we go into a more modern era for period care. All right, now we're going to our second case. This case is showcasing products from the 1980s on to present day. I love this product because not only is it one of those weird kooky products that wasn't around for a very long time, maybe because it doesn't really do much, but I love it for the packaging as well. It just reminds me of a time when I was younger and I was watching a lot of TV shows that felt like they had this design. But this is a mini pad. It's meant for very light days or bladder leakage, and you wear it between the lips, and this is to scale. That's as small as it is. No longer available today in a disposable format. However, you can find very similar items called interlabial pads in reusable formats, and we actually sell some here at the store. If you are of a certain age, you will recognize this product in this box. This is the Relay tampon, and it got a lot of media attention in the 1980s because it was one of the tampons, but certainly probably the most famous, that was causing toxic shock syndrome, and women were dying, women were getting amputations. It's a horrible, horrible, rare condition, but made more prominent because this tampon was so super absorbent. It used a super absorbent material that is no longer used in tampons today. So historically, this tampon means a lot for the safety of period products. It kicked off FDA's involvement with tampon safety, and also tampon absorbency ratings are now standardized so that you know how long to wear a product versus how absorbent it is, because still today people don't really realize you're supposed to match the tampon to your flow, and one of the biggest reasons is safety, so that you do not contract TSS. So TSS is very rare today, but it can happen, and the Relay company and P&G who own them were very resistant to acknowledging this publicly. They kind of knew behind the scenes. There's a lot of information about this you can read if you're interested. There was a real stain on the company, and they didn't get back into the tampon game for a very long time because of that. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to find an original, older version of the Keeper Cup, but I certainly was able to find one. Look at that, beauty influencer style. This is a 2000s version, literally from the year 2000, Keeper Cup. However, they started in the late 1980s. And from the early 1970s until the late 1980s, so almost 2 whole decades, there were no menstrual cup products available. This was the first to bring the menstrual cup back and kick off the modern menstrual cup revolution. I have a full video on the history of Keeper Cup if you're interested. Even though this one's from the 2000s, it does represent this time where menstrual cups come back. I wish I could find like an original box version. If you have one, let me know. I found this one in the UK, and it has this amazing letter that's like a piece of history in itself about the menstrual cup. A lot of people accuse menstrual cup users of feeling better than everyone because they use the menstrual cup and don't use disposable pads or tampons, and I have to say this letter does give off that vibe. I get why that was a reputation for at least a long time. Now we are in the 1990s, and we have a menstrual disc. This was actually announced and sold as the Instead Soft Cup, which became a very confusing thing. At the time, there were only 2 sort of alternative period products available. It was this and the Keeper Cup. So this product was disposable, one-time use, and it was very, very new as a concept. This company reached success, not on a scale like tampons and pads, but they certainly had a very loyal cult following and do to this day. I do believe this to be sort of their first box out of all their different box designs. And this is not from the box itself. This is a newer one because this is actually still sealed, and I want to keep it that way. Obviously, I'm very, very focused on the reusable product side of the history, especially in the more recent years. This is an early pair of Lunapads period underwear. Lunapads invented the period underwear as we know it today, with the waterproof backing and the absorbency built in. I know Thinx gets a lot of credit for that, but here it is, Lunapads, early 1990s, reusable period underwear. And to end this tour, I'm showing you a product from 2020. It's called the Calally Tampliner. It's weird looking, right? So this is the tampon and this is the liner. It's all built in together. You would put your finger in and digitally insert the tampon, push it up all the way, and then there is this plasticky sheath. There is this planchette looking liner that sits essentially where your vulva is and absorbs any leaks. This product's not around anymore. It didn't last for very long, but it does signify that some people are trying to think outside the box because honestly, as you look through the history of period products, they are all very, very similar. We have tampons, we have pads, we have cups, we have discs, we have a few fringe products. This was trying to solve a problem that you could solve with a second product, but they wanted it all in one. Maybe they'll come back, maybe not, but we do have a little piece of history right here because you can't find this anymore. We have 3 different machines that are from different eras and different prices. This one is from the 1940s, 5-cent napkins, and there are even napkins inside. So that is our tour. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. If you would like to see our exhibit in person, please do visit us in Asheville, North Carolina. We are a museum exhibit, but we are also an entire store. So you can come in and shop for modern period products while also taking a tour of our museum exhibit. We would love to show you around and tell you the history of all of these really cool products. And just to throw it out there, if this is something you're really interested in and you happen to have a collection and there's anything that you see missing and you might be willing to loan or donate, please reach out. I would certainly be interested in some key items. I'm really looking for a Tassette Cup, a Hy-Kup. I'm looking for an original Keeper Cup, if at all possible. I would love an old sanitary sponge that was marketed as such, any early cloth pads, anything like that would be an amazing addition to what we already have out here. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next video.